In this video, I'm going to cover everything there is to do with the actual green screen. I'm going to tell you why green screen in the first place, and then the best options for you. Now obviously I'm using a green screen right now, and you can see it behind me. But if I just pop that back, and we'll go over and we'll look at the different alternatives that you could be using. I'm going to give you some alternatives so that you can decide which one suits you best, and also give you some little tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. So this one's all about green screen, so let's get on with that.
Okay, so first and foremost, let's address exactly why we're doing green screen or using a green screen in the first place. Now the main reason is because it's a colour that isn't that readily, naturally in anyone's skin tone. So it means that when you've got people against this backdrop, you can actually take it away and not have to worry about the fact that you're going to take away parts of the people as well. Now I swear by green screen just because it's what works best for me, but some people do use blue screens as well, but the concept is exactly the same. It's basically have a colour that's going to be very uniform so that you can take it away from the actual subject matter and leave behind a blank canvas that you can put whatever you like in it. Some people actually say that depending on what your final product is going to be in the background, it's better to choose something closer to it. So if there's a lot of sky in your final production, then you might be better off getting a blue screen rather than a green one. But really, as long as you can get something that isn't really naturally found in skin colouring, and it's a colour that you can pretty much avoid wearing as far as your clothing, then you're good to go. I'm going to cover green screen because that's what I know and it's what I use. Now there's quite a few different options you can actually have with green screen as far as the physical green screen itself. So I'm going to go through a few different options so you'll definitely have one that suits you and suits your budget as well. I'm going to cover it so you've got the more professional side of things, but then you've also got like a middle ground and also a DIY budget idea as well. So hopefully this will fit you whatever your budget is or whatever your requirements are. Now this is actual cloth that goes behind you, and this is what I use in my setup at home, so I know that this works really well. The positives on this is you can get a big sheet for not a lot of money, which means that you can cover pretty much anything you're going to want to do. They sell them in various sizes, and you can get ones that are big enough to actually drape along the floor as well, and you can walk around in them if you wanted to have full body shot green screen stuff, assuming you've got the space obviously. When you've got the cloth, you have to make sure it's as tight as possible. The reason is because you need to make that colour as uniform as you can, and if you've got lots of shadows and creases and light spots, it's going to be very, very difficult to take that colour away when you get to the editing process. Because of this, most screens come with some sort of frame. Now you can just buy the cloth itself if you know that you've got somewhere you can stick this up. Maybe you're just going to put it against a wall and gaffer tape it on, that sort of thing, then that's fine. But I've actually got a frame with mine because it means I can put it in various different places if I need to. Now if we look here, we can see we've actually just got the backdrops here without any framework whatsoever. You've got kits as well, but I'm not going to cover them in this one because I'm going to talk about lighting and stuff like that in its own separate video. But you can see you can actually buy them in bulk as well. You can see how inexpensive these things are. Now as long as you get something that is a uniform green, then you're going to be absolutely fine with setting this up. You can go into Amazon. I've just searched for green screen and it's come up with this. If you wanted to put chroma key in there, which is this word here, that basically will bring up the right sort of colours. As I said before, you have to make sure that this is tight, pulled really taut so that it can actually show a uniform green colour. Now some of these actually come with their own frames. These are a little bit more expensive, but it does mean that you know that this panel is going to be as tight as it possibly can be. Check that the size is as big as you need it to be, but don't go too far the other way. The first green screen cloth that I actually bought was so big that I ended up having to wrap itself over itself about 4 or 5 times, and it was a real nightmare to get set up. So take into consideration what size studio and what size sort of thing you're going to be doing. Do you need it to drape on the floor? If you don't, then it's probably better to go for the smaller size, and you'll also save some money not buying that excess that you don't actually need. As you can see, there's a lot of choice on here, so my advice to you is they are all pretty similar. So just go for the budget that you've allowed yourself. Don't spend any more than you need to, and just look at the reviews, which is why somewhere like Amazon is an ideal place to come. Now you can also go somewhere like eBay if you wanted to. I just did a quick search on here as well, and it's got much the same stuff. Now a lot of these sellers are actually the same as the ones on Amazon, so just go for whatever you're happiest with really, and just grab yourself. Don't think about it too much because like I say, it is just a green cloth at the end of the day. Now if you don't want to buy an actual green cloth that's been designed for this chroma key, then you can actually just go and buy a normal green sheet. Now the thing is, you just need to be very sure that it's a very uniform colour and it's not too close to a lot of other natural colours that are occurring. Now as long as you can do that, you can go ahead and just buy ordinary sheets from a bed shop wherever you want to. That's totally up to you. On the downside as far as using a cloth background is the fact that there's going to be creases in it no matter what you do. Now you need to iron it when you first get it or steam press it, however you want to do it, but basically get rid of any and all creases and dents that you can. Now it's never going to be perfect, or at least it isn't with me. Perhaps it's just my bad ironing skills, I don't know. But the thing is, it's always got that few little creases here and there, but as long as they're off the screen or you're going to crop them out at a later time, it doesn't matter too much anyway. So as long as you've got a good solid base behind where you're going to be, that's all that really matters with this. Now maybe you don't want to buy a framework and you don't want to buy a big piece of cloth. You can also buy paper roll. Now this does exactly the same thing, but the bonus with this is the fact that it isn't cloth, so it's not going to be creased. Now as long as you look after it, this paper is going to be as flat as it can be. Now this is probably more advisable if you've got somewhere that's a permanent setup, because then you don't want to be taking this up and down and rolling it up. You're going to end up getting folds in it and it will ruin it. And it's kind of a middle ground as far as the pricing is concerned. So you could always go that route if that makes more sense to you. Now if you've got a permanent fixture or you're allowed to go ahead and paint on a wall, you can actually do that as well. Now there's actual green screen paint that you can get from Roscoe. Now I'm in the UK, so I'm looking at UK prices here, but you can see that you can buy about 4 litres for about £60, which at the moment is about $100. Now that's quite expensive. So I've got another option for this as well, because at the end of the day, this is just green paint. It is of a certain colour, but there's no reason why you can't go to a hardware store instead and find some greens there. So somewhere like this will sell lots of different green paint. And what the best thing to do is to get the little tester pots that they show here, and you actually paint a few things, a few different pieces of background or bits of paper, and just stick them on the wall you're thinking of using. Use your normal lighting techniques and everything, and then you can actually take a short film and see which ones are easier to take out the background. If you do this first, that means you can then go and buy a pot of the paint that worked the best. Now this is going to be a lot less than the chroma key paint was, but it'll give you the same outcome. Now wherever you're planning to paint this obviously is going to become your green screen wall, so just make sure that you're allowed to do this where you're planning to, and then you've got a permanent fixture. You should always put some sort of base coat of like a light grey or a white underneath first, just so that you get a nice uniform colour. And remember, it has to be matte paint. You don't want it to be shiny at all, because it just won't work, because the lights will bounce off it and then you won't be able to take it away because it'll be all sorts of different colours on screen. My home setup, like I say, is the material version, and I have it like that so I can actually roll it away and take it wherever I need to. Now, if you were thinking of doing this as a service, then you would need to do this as well, so obviously the wall option wouldn't work unless they were coming to you. So choose whichever one suits your size of studio best, whichever one actually appeals to you the most even, and give it a try. There's lots of different ways to do this, like I say, all the way from the professional kit right the way down to just throwing a bedsheet over a door. However you do it, just make sure the colour is nice and uniform behind you and it will work like gangbusters.